In the hallway, I was rearranging the shoes. Left pair to the left. Soles aligned. His boots had mud. I cleaned them with my sleeve. The front door was locked, but I checked it 4 times. Then once more. If they feel safe, they'll stay, I thought. But when I looked up, my daughter was watching from the stairs, phone in her hand, face still. That was the last night no one called me unstable. In the hallway outside my daughter's room, the door was ajar. 9:03 p.m., Thursday. I stood still, ear tilted toward the crack. The hallway light was off. I didn't want them to hear me breathing. Inside, laughter. Low, muffled, like something being shared that didn't include me. I leaned closer. My slipper slid slightly on the hardwood. I steadied myself against the wall. Just voices, no words. The kind of sound people make when they're planning something. I thought, why are they whispering? They live in my house, sleep in beds I bought, eat off plates I still wash by hand. I'm still the mother. The door creaked slightly as I shifted my weight. No one inside noticed. Or maybe they did. And didn't care. My chest ached, like the air in it was old. Thick, my fingers curled tight, nails digging into my palm. That sharp pain helped. It gave the moment shape. Yesterday, she stood by the kitchen sink, wiping down a glass that was already clean. She didn't look at me when she said it, just flicked the cloth over and over. You're suffocating them, Mom. I had nothing to say to that, so I closed the fridge door harder than I meant to. Then I wiped the counter again. I stayed outside the door 2 more minutes, then walked away. Slow. Quiet. The house looked clean. Still. The kind of clean people think means peaceful. But I knew the difference. I went back to the living room, rearranged the throw pillows, 1 on each side. No folds, no sagging. I sat in the armchair nearest the wall and faced the hallway. They had called a family meeting 2 nights ago. I wasn't invited. Later, I asked what it was about. Just some logistics, my son said. Nothing big, my daughter added. She smiled when she said it, but her hands were fidgeting, rubbing the back of her wrist. She used to do that in high school, when she lied about failing a test. That night, I found 2 wine glasses in the sink, and a third, wiped clean, turned upside down on the counter. They had expected me to join, then changed their minds. The heater kicked on. A soft click, then the slow groan of air through the vent. I glanced toward the hallway again. They're shutting me out. Little by little, like turning down the volume on a song they don't want to hear anymore. I heard footsteps upstairs, a door closed softly. They used to run down to tell me things. Now they go silent when I enter the room. Now they text each other while I'm still sitting at the table. I don't yell. I don't throw things. I make pot roast on Sundays. I ask them what they need, but lately, I can feel it. That look people get when they've already decided something, like I'm a box on a form. Something to be managed. Filed. I looked at the mantel. The old photo, us at Lake Erie. They were small then. They held my hands in both of theirs like I was made of gold. Now I wait outside their doors, trying not to breathe too loud, and they call that love suffocating. But if I stop watching, stop holding this house together, what happens next? I didn't know it yet. But something had already been signed. In the kitchen. Dim. The microwave clock blinked 12 strike. I couldn't sleep. The hum in the walls wouldn't let me. So I came downstairs, barefoot, careful not to make the stairs creak. The kitchen smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and reheated soup. I turned on the counter light, weak yellow glow. The mail tray sat crooked beside the toaster. I straightened it. Under a crumpled coupon, buy 1 get 1 paper towels, I saw the corner of a white envelope, not addressed, no stamp, just tucked in like a mistake. I pulled it out. Inside, 2 pages, legalese, bolded headers. Authorization for shared medical power of attorney. My name, typed cleanly, my birth date. Below, in blue pen, 2 signatures, my daughter, my son. My fingers twitched. The paper slipped, hit the floor. I sat down fast, knees buckling. The chair scraped the tile, saw loud, too loud. I waited, no footsteps upstairs. I picked up the paper again. The words blurred. I blinked hard. Why am I listed here? Why didn't anyone ask me? Why would they need this? I read it again. In the event the subject is deemed impaired, medical decision-making shall be shared between signatories. Impaired. Subject: not mother, not mom. I set the paper on the table, turned it sideways, looked at it like maybe it would mean something different. Nothing changed. The ink stayed where it was. I didn't hear him come down. My son, barefoot, hair a mess. He rubbed his eyes. Mom, what are you doing up? I didn't answer. Just pushed the paper toward him. He looked down. Didn't pretend to be surprised. Just exhaled. Long, shallow. You're overthinking, Mom. It's just routine paperwork. I stared at his mouth, at his eyes. He went to the fridge, poured himself water, didn't look back, spoke like this was weather or car insurance. It's not a big deal, just a safety net. Everyone does this now. Safety net for who? I wanted to ask. I didn't. Instead, I reached out and flipped the document face down, slowly. He watched that. The silence dragged. You okay? He asked, voice low, like I was a skittish dog. I stood up. Chair legs screeched. He flinched. Just barely. I folded the paper once, then again. Pressed the fold flat with my palm, then dropped it into the drawer with the takeout menus, behind the sushi coupons. Go to bed, I said. He didn't move. I turned off the counter light, walked back to the stairs without looking at him. Halfway up, I paused, felt the heat behind my eyes, but it didn't fall. Just sat there, stuck. Routine paperwork. That's what they called it when they started carving you out of your own life. In the dark of the hallway, I stood still for a long time. The clock on the microwave blinked on, then off. 12. 12. 12. I didn't know what hour it really was, but I knew something had started, and it wouldn't stop with paper. Sitting on the porch, rain tapping the plastic chair. Sunday, 4:41 p.m. The plastic was cold under me and damp where the gutter dripped. I didn't move. Let the drops hit my knees, let the cold settle into my skin. The cordless phone felt slippery in my hand. Plastic on plastic. I stared at it for a long time before dialing. It rang 4 times. My sister picked up with that same sigh she always had, like answering was a favor. And I didn't waste time. I found something in the kitchen drawer, I said. Medical consent papers, with their names on it, not mine. A pause, the kind that doesn't mean confusion, just discomfort. So, she said, is that so strange now? So strange, so normal, everything lately sat on that edge. I swallowed. They didn't tell me, they just signed behind my back. You're overreacting, she said. You always think someone's plotting. I looked at the garden, how the mulch was washed out. The roses had dropped their petals like teeth. I used to replant those every year. No one else offered. They're keeping things from me. I said it low, flat. My sister clicked her tongue. You need to back off, Anne. Kids need space. They're grown. My jaw tensed. Teeth clicked. I hadn't realized I was clenching them. I closed my eyes. I'm not in their way, I said. I'm holding them together. She sighed again, like she pitied me. Or worse. Felt nothing at all. The line went quiet for a moment. I heard her TV in the background. Some game show. Laughter. I'm just saying, she said. Maybe you should let them be. Let them handle things their way. Their way. I hung up. Didn't say goodbye. The porch light flicked on behind me. Motion sensor, but I hadn't moved. Inside, I could see the shadows. My son walking from room to room. My daughter on her laptop. Their lives moved around me now, not with me. I sat there watching like a stranger, like someone waiting for this house to invite her back in. A moth hit the bulb, again and again. Thud, thud. I didn't swat it. I understood. Later, I made dinner. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, the kind they used to ask for in high school. I set the plates out. 3, like always, they came down late. No words about the food, no compliments. My daughter pushed peas across her plate. My son ate with his phone in hand. I watched them, quiet, still. Then she said it. Soft, casual, like mentioning the weather. By the way, we booked a therapy consult next week. I blinked. Who's we? She looked up, straight into my eyes. You, me, David, family session for your anxiety. My hand jerked. Fork hit the floor. She didn't flinch, just kept talking. It's not a big deal, Mom. Just to help all of us communicate better. Better. That word again. Like I was the glitch, the problem. I bent down, picked up the fork, didn't speak, didn't eat. The rain had stopped, but the house felt damp inside, like something had soaked through the walls. That night, I sat in bed and stared at the ceiling. Heard nothing. No TV, no voices, just the faint click of their door locking down the knoll. In the living room, lamplight flickering. Tuesday night, 11:12 p.m. The bulb had been dying for weeks. I hadn't changed it. Something about that soft, uneven light made things feel less sharp. My daughter's laptop was left open on the coffee table. Screen dimmed, but not locked. I looked down the hallway. Silent. Her door was closed. I sat slowly, like the couch might groan too loud. The cushions sagged under me. The cursor blinked on an email draft, no subject line. I clicked into her browser history. Searches from this week. How to request psychiatric hold for elderly parent. Signs of early mental decline. Adult guardianship process. Ohio. My throat tightened. I kept scrolling, an email chain, back and forth, to someone at North Pines Behavioral Health. The words blurred, but I forced myself to read them. She paces a lot, talks to herself, accuses us of hiding things. It's getting harder to reason with her. We're just trying to keep her safe before things escalate. I scrolled to the top. Her name, her work email, professional tone. Below that, my son replying, co-signing, agreeing. My hands left damp spots on the trackpad. My breath came out fast, shallow, like I was running. But I hadn't moved. They're building a case. I thought it was about distance, time, autonomy. But it's not. It's about removal, reclassification, turning mother into liability. I touched my chest. My heartbeat felt wrong, too loud, too fast. Cold sweat trickled between my shoulder blades. My palms were slick. I read the last message again. We'll bring her in for the evaluation next week. I can sign the consent form. Consent. From them. About me. Footsteps behind me. I snapped the lid shut. She was standing there, barefoot, arms crossed. What are you doing on my computer? I didn't answer right away. My mouth was too dry. I stood. The laptop felt heavy in my hand. Not the weight of plastic, the weight of betrayal. Why are you trying to get rid of me? She didn't answer. Didn't flinch, just looked past me, then turned. Walked down the hallway. Quiet, steady, no slamming doors, no shouting, just silence. The kind that fills up a house like water. I sat back down, pressed my hands flat on my thighs. My knees were shaking. Not fear, not yet. Something deeper. A wrongness I couldn't name. They called me erratic, unwell, unstable. But I was the one who saw the cracks forming. They were the ones smiling while they took out the floor beneath me. The lamplight flickered again. I didn't bother to fix it. I sat in the dark, listening. No one came back. No one checked. The family I built was organizing my removal like a corporate restructure. By the time they brought in the paperwork, the ink would already be dry. Standing in front of the hallway mirror. The light above buzzing. 3:02 a.m. The house was quiet. Not the kind of quiet you rest in. The kind that listens back. I stood barefoot, gripping the cold edge of the bathroom counter. Porcelain. Sharp corners. One crack near the faucet. The mirror showed too much. Pale skin, hollowed eyes, mouth set tight. The light above flickered once, then again, buzzing like a trapped insect. I leaned in, close enough to fog the glass with each breath. I whispered, "You won't erase me." My voice didn't sound like mine. It scraped its way out. Then I said it again. Louder. "No one buries a woman alive." My jaw locked. I felt it, like a wire tightening from ear to ear. My fists curled against the counter, knuckles white, my knees stiff, not from age, from tension, like my body had turned to stone to stop itself from collapsing. I stayed like that for a long time, not blinking. 2 choices. Simple. Brutal. I could pretend. Nod along. Take the pills they would eventually offer. Smile when they say, "We're only doing this because we love you." Or I could make it hard for them. Claw my way back into every conversation. Open every drawer. Watch them. Remind them. I see what you're doing. I thought of calling the lawyer, the one who helped with the house deed, but the phone was in the kitchen, and the kitchen was too far. Too quiet. I turned on the tap. Let it run cold. Splashed water on my face. It dripped down my chin, soaked the collar of my nightshirt. I didn't wipe it off. That mirror. It didn't show the woman I used to be. The woman who raised 2 kids on night shifts and expired coupons. The woman who sat beside hospital beds and parent-teacher meetings like clockwork. Now it just showed them's version of me. Fractured. Fragile. But I wasn't. I was still the frame of this house, even if they painted over me. I turned off the light, walked back into the dark hallway. Their doors were closed, lights off. I could still hear the heater ticking. I could still feel the echo of her eyes when she caught me on her laptop. Cold, not shocked. I pressed my ear against her door. Nothing. I whispered, even though I didn't mean for her to hear. I changed your diapers. I paid for your braces. I held your hand after your first miscarriage. Each sentence hit the wood like a nail, one after another. Then I turned away, back to my room. I sat at the edge of the bed, didn't lie down. There would be no pretending, no smiling, no soft exits. If they wanted to erase me, they'd have to drag me out with both hands. And I wouldn't go clean in the bedroom. Afternoon light sharp through closed blinds. A knock on the door. The knock wasn't loud. It wasn't rushed. It and the had the rhythm of something practiced, expected. I didn't answer right away. I stood in the middle of the room, holding a hairbrush I wasn't using. The second knock came. Then her voice. "Mom, can you open the door?" I walked over slowly. My heels thudded against the floor louder than I remembered. The handle felt too cold. When I opened it, they were already in formation. 2 men in beige coats. Not police. Not strangers either. Clipboard in one hand. A subtle nod in the other. Behind them, my daughter. Eyes red. Not from crying, from not sleeping. Her face didn't move. The man on the left smiled with his mouth, not his eyes. "Hi, Anne. We're just going to evaluate you. You're not in trouble." I didn't answer. My legs gave out instead. My body dropped, sudden, not from pain, from something heavier. I caught myself on the doorframe, fingers clawing at the wood, nails bending backward. My throat made a sound. Low, guttural, not a word. The clipboard man bent slightly. "We're not here to hurt you. Just a short intake. A conversation, that's all." I looked past him, straight into her face. My daughter. She didn't step forward. She didn't blink. "Mom," she said, "please don't make this worse." Worse. That word sat between us like a switchblade. I tried to speak. Nothing came. Then, "This is my house." No one corrected me. No one denied it. They didn't need to. She looked down at the floor. "I'm sorry," she said. And she wasn't. Not fully, just tired of waiting. I didn't fight, not out loud. They let me grab a sweater, let me put on shoes, even let me lock the door behind me. As if that mattered now. The ride was quiet. A beige van with no logos, no sirens. I stared out the window the whole time, counted intersections, memorized turns, even though I knew it wouldn't help. My hands rested in my lap, still shaking. They didn't try to hold them. No cuffs, no shouting, just paperwork. Signed, filed, final. They called it voluntary, but I hadn't volunteered. I sat in the back of the van and thought, she did it. She chose them over me. She traded her mother for quiet. They were taking me somewhere I couldn't talk my way out of, where my words wouldn't matter, where love becomes a liability, and silence becomes the only defense left. I closed my eyes as the van passed the mailbox. My name still on it. Still there, for now. In the white room, no clocks, one barred window, night. The ceiling didn't change, same square tiles, same faint water stain in the corner. The light buzzed above me, steady, flat. I lay still, eyes open. Blanket pulled up to my chest like a child. The mattress beneath me was thin, hollow in the middle. I didn't shift. Didn't reach for anything. There was nothing left to reach for. The walls were white. Not warm white, not beige. Just white like paper. White like silence. There were no clocks in the room. No ticking, no way to count the hours. Only the window across from me. Barred, black outside. Sometimes a car passed far off in the distance. Sometimes nothing for hours. I listened to the light, that steady hum. The only sound in the room that belonged to something living. I thought, I was not dangerous. I didn't scream. I didn't hit. I asked questions. I watched. I remembered too well. That was the problem. I remembered everything. And they needed forgetting. They didn't want to argue. They wanted quiet. And I was not built for quiet. I was built to hold, to ask where they were, to keep the house warm even when no one thanked me, to show up every time. But too much presence becomes a problem. Too much care turns to concern. Too much memory becomes delusion. So they folded me, not with anger, with forms, with signatures, with meetings I wasn't invited to. Now my arms don't move, not from restraint, but because no one would notice if they did. My lips stayed closed, no words to save, no version left to defend. My body, quiet now, not because it chose peace, but because it was folded and put away. The door opened, a nurse stepped in, younger, soft-soled shoes, hair tied tight. She didn't look at me when she placed the tray on the rolling table, just slid it over. The food was always the same, something beige, something sweet, all of it tasteless. She lingered longer than usual. Maybe she had nowhere else to be. She said lightly, like making conversation, "You have a family, right?" My eyes stayed on the ceiling. I whispered, barely a thread of sound, "I used to." She didn't respond, didn't ask. She just adjusted the tray and left the room. The door clicked behind her. The light kept humming. The window stayed black. And somewhere across town, my name was still on the mailbox. But no one opened the letters.